Greetings. Welcome. This is Nkechi Taifa, and I am just honored and thrilled to host this program today for WPFW Pacifica Radio. We're going to be talking about reflections on the 100th anniversary of the birth of Malcolm X. And we have a riveting and informative show for you today. We have two phenomenal interviews, and we're also going to top it off with a poem about Malcolm X by none other than yours truly, called the Saga of Malcolm X. So, before we begin with our first interview, I just want to make sure that you get ready. You get ready to support this station on the last day of our spring fundraising drive. I want you to get ready to call 202-588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739 and give your love to this station. So, without any further ado, we're going to go on and start with reflections on the 100th anniversary of the birth of Malcolm X with our first interview. So I am just so very thrilled that we have right here, right now, today, my dear brother, Baba Zayid Muhammad. We're talking about someone who is the last founding member of the Malcolm X Centennial Committee. We're talking about someone who is the New Jersey strategist for Equal Justice USA. We're talking about someone who has been on the front lines and in the trenches. And I'm so glad that he is sharing our platform here today at WPFW Pacifica Radio. How you doing, my brother Zayid?
Honored and humbled just to share some time and space with you and your audience. And I hope your audience recognizes what time it is. Spaces like PFW are going to be under crazy attack from this crazy racist fascist state. And it is, as people's media, people got to step up and do what we got to do to resource it and to make sure it don't go nowhere but where it's at.
Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. And this is an auspicious time right now. We're talking about none other than the centennial, the 100th birthday of our Black shining prince, Hajj Malik El Shabazz, also known as Brother Omar Wali, also known as Malcolm X. And, you've been in this for a long, long time in terms of the Malcolm X Centennial Committee. Can you tell us a little bit about the Malcolm X Centennial Committee, your role in it? Who some of the founding elders are that are or were part of the committee. Tell us a little bit, share with us about the Malcolm X Centennial Committee.
Well, it's actually the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee.
Okay. Oh, that's right, because it's only centennial because this
This
year is
this,
the
this is the
centennial.
centennial. Yeah, this is just a minute. Right?
Right, 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 right.
Way, yeah, I have to give all honor and praise and salute to one of the founding fathers of the new African independence movement that you and I both knew and love, and Baba Herman Ferguson.
Ashe, ashe, ashe. Oh, yes.
Bob, of course, was in the OAAU with Malcolm right up until that fateful day on February 21st, 1965, when Malcolm was taken from us, right? But Bob Herman, courageous, radical educator that he was, tried to create some spaces and do some work, pushing Malcolm's most revolutionary dimensions of his work. Became himself a target for the FBI COINTELPRO operations, particularly his role in developing the Jamaica Rifle and Pistol Association,
Mm,
Black Gun Club
that's
in
what
New
I'm
York
talking about.
City that trained black men and women in how to defend themselves in that way. And of course, a lot of the young black men and women who went into that training ultimately went into what became the New York chapter of the Black Panther Party. So he was a very serious target. Framed for attempting to or conspiring to kill two civil rights leaders, some of the craziest stuff I've ever heard.
Mm,
Robert Herman opted for exile and spent almost 30 years in exile in Guyana and helped build up that country's defense forces as a soldier that he was, and its educational infrastructure. But
yeah.
as he, retired and really, he wanted to come back to the States and clear his name. And in 1989, when he came back, of course, they put him right took him right into custody. And it wasn't until the legendary, and you'll appreciate this, warrior lawyer woman, the late great Judge Bruce Wright somehow,
Yeah. Turn loose, Bruce.
yes, how
Yeah.
Barbara Herman's case wound up in his courtroom. This is the most
Hallelujah.
thing I ever heard and cut Barbara Herman loose.
Yeah.
As soon as he did that, now Barbara
Yes.
Herman was now going into his 70s, right?
Yes.
He rounded up some of his comrades from the OAAU and Muslim Muslim Corporation and the NOI to help start the what became the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee.
Uh-huh.
As a revolutionary elder, he was concerned about the commercial attention and energy that was coming at Malcolm, as we all were. Because I was also part of how we stepped the spike, how we saved the Audubon Ballroom. I was involved in all of that, and through another organization that I had locally, I was constantly doing teachings. I was considered a chapter and verse Malcolmite, right? I was doing constant political education around Malcolm, and him and Ayalua, before he even got out,
And
Ayalua,
Ayalua was his wife.
his
Ayalua
wife,
first. Yes.
revolutionary educator in her own right, and a founding mother of the new African independence movement, recruited
Yes.
me to come into the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee with them. We got going in earnest in 1992.
Okay.
It started with an awards dinner that will become our annual Freedom Fighters dinner in support of our political prisoners. We did teachings on February 21st and on May 19th, and joined the annual pilgrimage to Malcolm's gravesite. In fact, we played a particular role in making that grow. That had become kind of insulated for a minute, and we actually brought more attention to it, and it became an international event. We became an educational resource for community folks, for educators all over the country by virtue of our, possessive, grasp of Malcolm's history and legacy. And we've been rolling like that for years. This year, I'll be taking some
And
of the work into.
when we're going, you mentioned earlier Yuri Kochiyama. What was her? Yeah, tell us about Yuri and whatever impact that she had as part of the Malcolm X commemoration
You and
committee.
I both know
Probably she
it.
might have passed by then. I'm not sure.
Yuri, who shares a birthday,
Yes,
right?
May 19th.
Malcolm was her little brother in
Wow.
solidarity, right? Yuri and Herman both were 5 years ahead of Malcolm, right?
Uh,
Yuri too was in the OAAU, and of course, there's that iconic picture of Yuri literally cradling Malcolm's head when he was hit and wounded, and her coming to his aid because Yuri by profession was a nurse
ah,
who tried to radicalize and organize her folks when they were in an American concentration camp.
right. Japanese
Hello?
Americans. Yep.
Right? She was a legend before she met Malcolm, and Malcolm embraced her legend and had her come into the OAAU. She was and for all of her many years, and Yuri lived into her 90s like Herman did. She was an international beacon of human solidarity. In
Well, let me
fact,
tell you this. Yuri was also a naturalized citizen of the
of the
provisional
Republic,
government of the Republic of New Africa.
she was my witness when I took my citizenship oath.
Hey.
Can't make this stuff up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Stalwart champion for our freedom fighters from all of our struggles. And,
Yeah.
we all adored her. In fact, I'm trying to track her granddaughter, Kimmy, down because
Yeah.
I know she's trying to do something for her mother and for Malcolm this month also, right?
Yes, there is something that's going to be happening. I think there's going to be a brick or block. There's going to be some type of monument to Yuri and Malcolm that's actually that's happening during the Malcolm X
Yeah.
Centennial weekend. Yeah. But keep
Trying to
going.
track.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, but it was those kind of folks. Earl Grant, an unsung, hero, that was right up under Malcolm in the OAAU. Earl Grant was not just a part of Malcolm's defense squad, but he was an electrical engineer. And there's the great Dr. John Henry Clark first documented it in his Malcolm X, the Man in His Times, when Earl created a bug. You know how the FBI bugged us?
Mm.
Earl created a bug for Malcolm because the FBI approached him when he left the nation to become an informant for the FBI on the nation. Of course, Malcolm, in his very ceremonious ministerial way, told him to go to hell.
What
And
the
we,
hell? Hey.
we got it all on tape.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I wasn't even aware of that, Baba.
Oh yeah. So those kind of elders came in with us, and then he was, one of your colleagues, the late great Joan Gibbs. We had our first meetings,
Yes.
and she was with the Center for Constitutional Rights back then,
Attorney.
right? Sam Anderson, Party, Snick, Black Holocaust for Beginners, legendary mathematic teacher, that was the nucleus of what became the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee. And I was the young buck that became the first and only press officer, that helped drive that on the streets and in the media. And it was a long walk that I'm very proud of, and I was just touched to be able to do what we did with him and them in that way, standing on
Yeah.
the show.
All right. So tell us a little bit about the different things that are happening during this Malcolm X Centennial weekend in New York or wherever, particularly New York, including the pilgrimage, which is really going on right now, May 19th. So tell us a little bit about that. And I'm a part of that as well. So I'm very excited because it is really my very first time, believe it or not, going to make this honorable pilgrimage.
Yeah, I was just in text land with Akanyele Umoja, who came up
Yeah,
around India when he put out his book. We will shoot back for the
yes.
first. So we're looking forward to having you. A lot's going on locally, a lot's going on nationally, a lot's going on globally. Just
Mhm.
today, there is a delegation, and I almost became you the only reason why I didn't go. Right?
Oh, because you're speaking
So
at our,
our
but that's
word
the
to you in the
reparations
National
rally.
Reparations Rally.
So
Absolutely.
what is it that you gave up for us, my brother?
It's
I'm
a
eternally
delegation.
indebted.
It's all right. No, it's all right, my queen. We keep our how we gonna honor Malcolm and not keep our word, right? Uh, there is a delegation going to Grenada.
Oh, yes, to celebrate Malcolm's
Malcolm
mom.
X Foundation,
Yes,
Grenada,
yeah.
dedicated to him and his mother, Louise Langdon Norton Little, bold Garveyite who caught hell for her commitment, is happening in Grenada. In fact, one of our members, Brother Charles Mitchell, is going. Herb Boyd, who will be spotlighting in our next Revolutionary Fourth Sunday with Don Rojas, right?
Yeah, our
With the
brother.
five of the New Jewel movement in Grenada for their book coming out, Malcolm X, the FBI, and CIA, and the blacks. So that's just a picture of what's happening globally. What you have put together in D.C., all of those activities with the culmination of that national rally, big deal, and we're all very proud of, and we're all enthused to participate in. That's a full week for you. There's a space that I'm very fond of that I'm dying to actually make a trip to go see in Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh,
Malcolm was born in Omaha, and of course
yes.
that house was attacked and firebombed by the Klan, right?
Mhm,
It was a black woman named Rowena Moore who in the
mhm,
1980s bought the land that formerly housed that house.
mhm.
He built out what became the Malcolm X Memorial Foundation in Omaha.
Ah.
They've got a whole week of things going on. Last week, they were able to get a statue erected to Malcolm in one of their state buildings, right?
Mhm.
Doing some great work. It's something I'm calling spaces for Malcolm. You mentioned that we've got some historical markers that are being developed in Harlem. One was just put in front of the Teresa Hotel to lift up that legendary history. And of course, Malcolm was
Oh, yeah.
ultimate highlight of that when he brought Fidel to Harlem.
Fidel Castro, Malcolm X, boy,
Yeah,
historic.
but that people also should appreciate because of that. Kwame Nkrumah came to see Fidel.
Mhm,
Nikita Khrushchev came to see Fidel.
mhm,
Gamal Abdel Nasser came. A little bit of everybody came to see Fidel that week, on the strength of what Malcolm did. And of course, that would be the headquarters for when Malcolm first started the OAAU, right? Teresa has incredible history, right? So the local stuff that you spotlighted, the annual pilgrimage to his gravesite was
mhm,
conceived and organized first and foremost by his big sister Ella Little Collins, who
mhm,
went into the nation with him, the last in the family to go into the nation and the first to leave the nation, right? But also
mhm,
went into the OAAU with her little brother, had
mhm,
built out cultural programming in Boston before he even left the nation,
mhm.
listening to her little brother, financed his epic trips abroad when Patrice Lumumba was killed. She
Mhm,
took cultural stock of that. And when her brother fell, she said, "You know what? We got to learn from what these monsters did to Patrice Lumumba.
mhm,
We venerate our ancestors.
mhm.
Our enemies understood that. That's why they did so much to his body on top of killing him.
Oh my God. Just
Right? She is the conceiver of the annual pilgrimage and gravesite ceremony to Malcolm. Now, her chief lieutenant in security was a young man named James Small,
Oh my goodness.
right?
Wow.
Who was
That was
later
way back in the day then. Way
named
back. Oh my, he was a young man then, huh?
18 years old, who a
Mm-mm.
few years later would do an armed demonstration at City College in Harlem that would lead to Harlem embracing Africana studies. He wasn't no armchair revolutionary, right?
James
He
Paul.
has honored that tradition every single year, rain or shine, and this is now year 60, and he's, approaching 80 himself, an incredible elder and one of my dearest friends and brothers, who we were very looking excited about. We also, and I'm shouting out my comrades from the December 12th movement, we
Yeah.
also shut down 125th Street.
Yeah, tell about that. Yeah, this boycott and the shutting down. So this is not just this year. This has been going on.
This will be year 35.
Okay. Whoa. Okay.
35, as an act of community self-determination,
Mm-hmm.
declared that Malcolm deserves a commercial moment of silence
Mm-hmm.
every May 19th. So, and at first we had to really, make some hard noise to get some of these, little petty capitalists to understand what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Some understood right away, some had to be educated by our protests. But over the years, there has come to be a profound respect for that call, and a good number of businesses voluntarily closed between
Mm-hmm.
like 12 and 4 every May 19th, regardless of the day of the week, to honor as be a part of Harlem's honoring Malcolm's legacy. We do a Black Power walk for the benefit of those who don't understand in
Mm-hmm.
community and in those those business places, so to bring them on board one way or another, but
So
that
is there like an African marketplace during that time, or is this a ban on any commercial, even if it's black owned businesses? Just curious.
yeah, I mean, black owned businesses, we had to educate them too, because their behinds wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Malcolm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For that, right? But no, but after that, we all come back and do our thing. We lift up some of those businesses that have been particularly, sensitive about it. We lift up black businesses that have been particularly sensitive about it. It's a genuine community exercise of self-determination. That's
Gotcha.
happening. That night at the Shabazz Center, and we had a cat fight years ago with our first mayor, David Dinkins, who was going to sell the Audubon Ballroom to Columbia University for $1.
Oh my God.
We said,
No, stop.
we
Mm.
had we used to march from 125, 40 blocks up to the Autobahn, raise hell. We did that. All this is like,
Just one moment, in case I make sure all of our listeners understand, the Audubon Ballroom was the site where Malcolm was assassinated when he was about to make a speech. I just want to make sure everyone
yes,
understands
yeah. It was there,
the
and of course,
importance of it,
yeah.
significance. Yeah.
And it was also where he rallied the OAAU. That was his rallying place,
Ah, yes.
right? But yeah, it was the shutdown of the 125th Street was an extension of our protest to save the Autobahn, a victory that we're glad that
And
we
so the saving of the Audubon, I know it's now called the Betty Ship. Tell the title of it now. Yeah.
Eddie Shabazz Education and Cultural Center, right? Who's being overseen for the most part by their third daughter, Dr. Ilyasa Shabazz.
Yes.
And since she really got a handle on the managing of that space, we stopped doing our forums on that day, and we actually support what she offers on the evening of February 21st and on the evening of May 19th.
Right.
And that's always a full house every time she hosts those affairs, right?
So,
We
Baba, we have about a few minutes left, and in this few minutes that we have left, I want you to let our listeners audience know what's usually people expect when they actually go to the pilgrimage. I know that this is being pre-taped and it's going to be aired right on the 19th, and I will be there in New York at the gravesite on the 19th. So what generally does Professor Smalls coordinate with respect to that? Or yeah, just want to get a feel.
Well, first, you will be a part of a caravan of people coming from all over that will converge on 125th Street in 7th Avenue, what we call African Square. Once we're all gathered at about 9:30, we all caravan up together. A line of Black liberation flags on each of our vehicles, right?
Uh-huh.
On up to the gravesite. And at the gravesite, Baba Herman has I'm sorry, Baba James has a ceremony that he, in a very step by step way, maps out for that day. That includes the dressing of the gravesite and our flag.
Mm,
At the head of the gravesite, the chair of the leader and the chair of his queen, because Betty is right there,
right there.
right? There is a circle of young men in white. Malcolm was very spiritually inspired in all of his travels abroad as a Muslim by what he saw in Sudan. And of course, Sudan in 1959 and 1964 looks very different than what's going on in Sudan now. He would be heartbroken about what's happening
Mhm.
in Sudan now. But, the oldest real estate in the earth, we had a beautiful handle on Islam and on our original Africanity coming from that region. And
Mhm.
and Sudanese Muslims for their moments of importance would dress in white. So we have these young brothers, and dressed in white that are brought into that. And often these are young brothers who have not been there before, who, it's their first real experience in doing something as intimate like that for Malcolm. For years, when I ran the new Black Panther Party in my area, my troops served as they were in white. My troops would be around the perimeter in black, serving as the honor
Wow.
guard. We did that for about 14, 15 years
Wow.
until I retired from the party, right?
Yeah.
But there's a moment for men to be addressed by a presiding elder. For often that would be Dr. Leonard Jeffries, because he too has ties to the OAAU, and Sister Kefa Nefta, who used to be with him in his organization, used to do it for the women. She's long gone. Mama Ayalua has done it. She's joined the ancestors. So somebody else is going to be designated for that. Imam Talib Rashid from the Mosque of Islamic Brotherhood, the successor mosque to what was Muslim Mosque Incorporated, is always there as a fixture to represent, that dimension of Malcolm's spirituality and an inclusion of, people who have brought and who bring, the history and importance to why Malcolm is so important at that given moment. Be prepared to say something because I'm already letting them
Me?
know. Yeah, I already let them know that you're coming.
All right now. All
Yeah,
right now.
because that definitely might happen. Last year we were particularly grateful to have Sundiata Acoli there for the first time.
Oh, yes, our dear brother, former political prisoner, spent, oh God, I don't remember how many years, 50 years behind bars, home
And,
now in New
and I
York.
gotta say this because I want to make you. I want to put a smile on your face. My reparations work started in the early '80s when Cobra was first pulling themselves together, and it was around that time that Sundiata did this portrait of this young warrior lawyer. And I said, "Whoa, who was
You
that?"
saw that? How you know?
Oh man, shoot! It was a conversation piece. It was a kind. I didn't know
That
Nkechi
was his
Taifa
first, that was one of
personally
his
either. I
first
said, I
paintings.
want to know who that was. Woo, that was it was a beautiful piece, and that
Oh,
was the gifts that we were so blessed to have from that brother. But
yeah,
to be acknowledged like that by somebody like him, and this is us, 10 toes down in this work you
yes.
know, hard work, dealing with the grimiest aspects of our oppression, right? But our struggle is, according to Alice Walker, is a beautiful struggle. And it was
Right.
beautiful for you to be lifted up like that and for us to be like, whoa, who's the queen? You know, we
I was
want to know
quite
who she
honored.
is.
I have that picture. I treasure
I
it.
know you do.
Oh, yeah, but thank you. So, Baba, thank you so much, very much for sharing time with us, with our WPFW audience. We have been listening to Brother Zayid Muhammad, the last family member of the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee, longtime revolutionary, but also the New Jersey strategist for Equal Justice USA. And thank you, Asante Sana, for getting Equal Justice USA to come on board with respect to the issue of reparations.
And yeah, we got folks from other cultures respecting our struggle and
Yeah,
uniting with us. It was about time.
absolutely. It's about time.
Owe us, they sold us, they owe us.
They right, like the statement from the D12. I use it
Right.
all of the time, and now that I know where it came from, I will always acknowledge that. I thought it came from New Jersey because I used to see it on a poster there that People's Organization would but it comes from D12, December 12th, and we're forever grateful. They stole us,
They
they
sold
sold
us,
us,
they
they
owe us.
owe us, and all that is part of this whole commemoration also of the centennial anniversary birth of our Black Shining Prince, also known as Malcolm X. Thank you so very much, my brother.
Pleasure and honor is all mine, my queen. Thank you. Free the land and on to May 17th and May 19th.
Feed the land, feed the land, feed the land. So here I am again because I want to tell you about an exclusive Malcolm X Centennial gift as part of WPFW Pacifica Radio Spring Fundraising Drive. It is called the Malcolm Lives WPFW Digipack. It's for a pledge of just $100 and it is exclusively downloadable. It contains Malcolm X material, from the Pacifica Radio archives, including many of his best known speeches. Don't delay. Get this Malcolm Lives WPFW Digipack today. How can you do that? You can call in your pledge for $100 at 202-588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739. Or you can donate on the website, WPFWFM.org. You can donate for Cash App, $ WPFWFM. But whatever you do, donate. Donate. You're going to get programming like this. This whole month of May, beginning with the James Brown and ended up with Malcolm X or Hajj Malik El Shabazz, nowhere but on your community public radio station, WPFW. Donate today. And now we're going to go to our second interview. So, on this segment of our special on the Malcolm X Centennial, I'm just very honored and blessed to share with you something from me, Nkechi Taifa. This is my piece called The Saga of Malcolm X, which I wrote back in the late 70s, early 80s, published as part of my book, Shining Legacy, Story, Poems, and Tales for the Young, so Black Heroes Forever Will Be Sung. In this book, I found out in 2020 was on the banned book list of the Central York, Pennsylvania School District. And when I found that out, I put my works back in print. So here we go, The Saga of Malcolm X. Malcolm X was a strong Black man. Malcolm X said the struggles for land, self-determination for Black people now, by any means necessary was his vow. He was born Malcolm Little on the 19th day 1925, the month was May. He was born up south in Omaha, Nebraska. Even before his birth, there was much disaster around his father's home. The clan did ride. Mama and children were alone inside. Because the Reverend Little was away that night, the clan got away without a fight. The family moved to Lansing, Michigan. Malcolm's father bought a house, but there was violence again because Reverend Little organized for the UNIA. The Klan burned their home one dreadful day. When Malcolm was 6, he took a deep, long breath. It was whispered his father had just been beat to death. attacked by white racists and thrown across the tracks because he stood up for what Garvey taught about blacks. The state broke up his home, drove his mama out of her mind. She was sent to the hospital. Her children were in a bind. Now, Malcolm, being young and without parental guide, he began to steal. He cheated and lied. But at the state detention home where Malcolm was sent, he made good grades and was class president. Then, when asked in school what he wished to be, a lawyer, Malcolm said quite proudly. His teacher looked at him and said, "You're out of your mind. A simpler type of work you had better find." Malcolm was discouraged. From that point on, lost interest in school, and in eighth grade was gone. But Malcolm X would be a strong black man. Malcolm X would say the struggles for land, self-determination for black people now, by any means necessary would be his vow. He traveled to Boston to live with his sister Ella, became a shoeshine boy and a hip slick fella. Malcolm learned how to hustle, how to make a quick buck, caught the train to Harlem and thought he found luck. At Small's Paradise, he got a waiter's job. He met many gangsters and learned more ways to rob. Big Red was the nickname he was called because he had reddish brown hair and was 6 feet tall. Malcolm broke into houses late at night, stole clothes and jewelry, whatever he could sight, was caught by police and sent to jail. He was 20 years old, but given no bail. At first in prison, Malcolm acted really mean. They called him Satan because he made an evil scene. But a few years later, he took a long, curious look in the prison library and checked out a book. Malcolm hadn't read a book since the eighth grade, but he copied down the words, page after page. After the dim prison lights were out in his cell, Malcolm read until his eyes were no longer well. He studied about Africa and its ancient glories. He studied about blacks and read many stories. He went through the dictionary and learned much knowledge. Later on, many would think he had been to college. Malcolm X would be a strong black man. Malcolm X would say the struggles for land, self-determination for black people now, by any means necessary would be his vow. While studying in prison, Malcolm wrote many letters. His brother often visited him to make him feel better. This brother spoke with pride about a religion he had embraced. He said the Nation of Islam was for the black race. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the leader of the group. It uplifted black folk and taught them the truth. Now, Malcolm listened closely to what his brother said. Many years had passed since he was called Big Red. He began to write Muhammad, and the messenger wrote back. Elijah taught him facts about whites and blacks. He wrote him a devilish deeds by the racist white men about the tricks and the lies he spread throughout the land. Malcolm slowly thought back and remembered his past. Those who messed up his life hard and fast. The Klan who laid his paw across the tracks. The teacher who said a lawyer was not for blacks. The judge who sentenced him away to do time. The state which drove his mama out of her mind. That he must struggle against evil was now plain to see. Malcolm now knew what he wanted his life to be. So when Malcolm left jail in 1952, he changed his ways. He had work to do. He smoked no cigarettes, sold no dope, because being a Muslim gave him hope. Now, remember at his birth, his last name was Little, where the name came from. No longer was a riddle. 'Twas a slave owner's name from long ago. So Malcolm used an X for the name he'd never know. Malcolm became a Muslim minister. The Nation of Islam was at its peak. Malcolm founded new temples and the paper Muhammad speaks. He often talked on street corners and in the bars and to the hustlers with the big, fine, flashy cars. And he rapped to black youth with respect in their eyes as he showed how integration seemed like slavery in disguise. Malcolm spoke of self-defense and independent land, about human rights that blacks must demand. He became a great leader. Very busy was his life. He made fiery speeches, now had children and a wife. Malcolm X was a strong black man. Malcolm X said the struggles for land, self determination for black people now, by any means necessary, was his vow. But it was later found out that the vicious FBI joined black groups to destroy and spy. Soon the once strong movement became infiltrated to Elijah Muhammad, and Malcolm X was soon separated. So Malcolm traveled to Mecca and Ghana too, then came back to Harlem to found the OAAU. He said, fighting for just civil rights will not let us rise. To win our struggle internationalized. Just to hear this great black man made the people fascinated. But also there were those who wanted him assassinated. Very busy, Malcolm stayed as the months passed along. Although his life was now in danger, he kept on pushing on. But February 21st, 1965 was the last day Malcolm was to stay alive. About to make a speech, Malcolm faced his doom up on the stage of Harlem's Audubon Ballroom. Now, in this audience were some men who did what whites willed. They aimed at shotguns, and Malcolm was killed. People mourned Malcolm's death all over this land. They loved him because they knew he was a strong black man. Since then, his body is rested 6 feet underground, but across the black nation, his spirit can be found. Though the vision Malcolm gave us was so very strong, his message can be found in my little song. Malcolm X was a strong black man. Malcolm X said the struggles for land, self-determination for black people now, by any means necessary was his vow. By any means necessary was his vow. By any means necessary was his vow. Thank you. That was the Saga of Malcolm X by myself, Nkechi Taifa, from my book for young people, Shining Legacies, Story, Poems, and Tales for the Young, so Black heroes and heroines forever will be sung. Thank you. So wasn't that absolutely phenomenal? I mean, I found out information that I did not even know before. So again, we're on the last day of the WPFW Spring Fundraising Drive. And, you know, this whole drive today on last day is dedicated none other than to our Black Shining Prince, Hajj Malik El Shabazz, also known as Malcolm X. We're talking about reflections on the 100th anniversary of the birth of Malcolm X. And on this last day, we have an exclusive Malcolm X Centennial gift, the Malcolm Lives WPFW Digipack, for a pledge of just $100, exclusively downloadable, containing Malcolm X material from the Pacifica Radio Archives. I know it includes the ballad or the bullet. I know that it includes many of your favorite Malcolm X speeches. You know, I just love it. 202-588-9739. There are people standing by to take your call, to take your pledge. 1-800-222-9739. You can donate on the website, WPFWFM.org. You can donate via Cash App, $WPFWFM. But beyond anything else, donate. All right. I am just so very thrilled to have my guest here right now today, Brother Abuy, also known as Dr. Nfubea. We're talking about someone who is calling in all the way from Spain. We're talking about someone who was the founder of the Black Panther Party in Spain, someone who is a revolutionary, okay, someone who was just thrilled and informed by hip hop. Okay. We're going to be here talking today about the centennial of Malcolm X and his upcoming book. But first of all, I just want to say, welcome, Karibu, my dear brother, Abuy.
Thank you, my sister. I'm very good at being your show. I'm very happy to talk with you. You are the great woman. I have an interview. I met you 2 years ago. I must have did this interview, put it out. You remember?
All right. Yes, indeed. And I'm
Mhm.
glad that you are back. Now, let me just have the audience here in the United States hear just a little bit about you and your background before we get into Hajj Malik El Shabazz, also known as Malcolm X. Tell us who you are, Dr. Nfubea.
Well, I born in Equatorial Guinea in Africa. I come in Spain with my family when I was 8 years old. I was prepared to be a Negro, house Negro, to back to Africa and work with the dictatorship. And one day I buy one records of the hip hop group they call, it was the name, it was,
Public Enemy?
no, before
No.
Public Enemy, it was,
Before.
the name of the group was Africa, no, Africa Islam, was, uh,
Bambata?
Schoolie D. It was a Schoolie D. And
Okay.
I buy record of Schoolie D. One is the name of the record was I'm Not Enough Black for You. And I hear the first time I hear somebody talk, he says the Malcolm X. It was the first time. So
Wow.
when I meet Malcolm, my life changed. I didn't want to be a lawyer more. I left my family, prepared me to be a lawyer. I said, no, I don't want to be. I want to be other things. So Malcolm was, I meet Malcolm through hip hop.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and then I buy one record of Quincy Jones, put a record of the Malcolm X speeches with music.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was very famous records. I didn't know English that time, but I was see Malcolm appear in all the hip hop groups records, Africa Islam, MPMD, Schoolie D, all the school, all
Yeah.
various school. Public Enemy was late, but I told you about groups like in 80s,
Mhm.
Sister Soldier,
Oh, yes,
people like
indeed.
this.
Mhm.
It was
Tupac,
very
yeah.
Paris, Paris, a certain song. There
Mm-hmm.
was uh, there was music that it was very revolutionary, and it was one time was the we was in the part of the apartheid struggle, free Mandela movement all this time, and so Malcolm came to open the mind of the African youth and my generations. There was a street we was fighting against skinhead Nazis, who was the white terrorists against the African people in Europe.
Yeah.
So many Africans intellectuals they said that were violence, but when we listen, Malcolm said, "No, go ahead, make whatever
Yeah.
you has to
By
make."
any means, by any means necessary.
Yes, by any means necessary. At
Oh,
the same time, we see Malcolm was the most highest intellectual I listened in that time because he was speaking like people in the street, but at the same
yeah.
time was speaking the people in the university.
Yes.
That was some kind of things. And then in 1993, Akinjele in Makongo came to Spain.
Yeah, Brother Akinyele Umoja, the author of We Will
Yes,
Shoot Back from the New
yes.
African
Makongo and Akinjele
people.
Moja came
Yeah,
to Spain. Tell me the
Akinyele.
first time about
Yeah.
Sundiata Koli. I didn't know
Yada
about the
Kohli,
guy.
who is now finally free from after over 50 years of unjust incarceration as a political
Yes,
prisoner. So you learned
it
about
was.
all of these folk in New African Independence Movement, Republic of New Africa, and all that. But I know you have a book coming out on Malcolm X, right?
Yes, this centenary of Malcolm X is we see that it's very important to put the international dimension of Malcolm X. Malcolm X was
Yeah.
a revolutionary, was internationalist, and
Yes.
Malcolm helped to know African struggle as we know it today.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
Malcolm who talk about Mali with Modibo Keita. Malcolm
Mm-hmm.
talk about Nkrumah regime in Ghana. Malcolm
Yes.
visit Sekou Touré, Guinea.
Yes.
Malcolm wants to Mauritania, Senegal, Gambia, many places that even African people don't know. And
Malcolm was truly an internationalist. Yes,
yes,
yes. And
Malcolm back
what's
to
the title? What's the title of your upcoming book? What's the name
yeah.
of
The
it?
title is in Spanish is Malcolm X Conversaciones Afrocéntricas desde la Hispanidad. Malcolm X Afrocentric Conversation since Hispanity, from Hispanity. I spoke with more than 35 people in the Spanish world that the Malcolm X changed their life, like he changed my life. I
Wow.
talk
So
with
this
people.
is really a perspective that many people here in the United States don't know about the impact of Malcolm X or Hajj Malik El Shabazz in the Spanish world. And your book seeks to highlight those themes, correct?
Yes, I speak with sister from Argentina, brother from Peru, Ecuador, Venezuela. I spoke with gypsy people. Brother Alfonso is a gypsy in Spain. I spoke
Mm.
with, they tell you about how the gypsy movement was impacted by Malcolm X and the struggle against
Mm.
racism, you know? And I
Mhm.
spoke with the hip hop artists. I spoke with the writer, intellectual, filmmakers, and Bolivia, Equatorial Guinea, people who speak Spanish around the world, and the Malcolm X affect their life deeply.
And so your book details or discusses the impact of Malcolm on each of these people, these leaders, these freedom fighters that you interviewed as part of your book. Is that right?
Yes, yes. For example, Malcolm X make a strong contribution in terms of womanist, and I will look for people who know that. At the same time, for example, in the you talk about Black Panther Party in Spain, Malcolm was fundamental in the terms to build the Black Panther Party in Spain, not in Spain, but in Israel, but in New Zealand, but in England, but in Paris. I meet many people who was part of the different revolutionary movement in 80s, in 90s, and all of them told me about Malcolm X. And Malcolm X was very important to understand the theology, the
Right,
chance of
right.
the black liberation theology. Malcolm X was central to understand when you say put your religion in the pocket.
Right, right,
you
right.
know?
In the backpack. Yeah. So let me just ask you this, my brother, Dr. Mfubea. This is not your first rodeo in terms of book writing. I know you wrote a book called Afrofeminismo. I can't pronounce it correctly for me, please. About 55 years of Black women and struggle. Well, tell us the name of that book again.
Yeah, it's Afrofeminismo, 50 años de luchas y activismo de mujeres negras en España.
Yeah,
Afrofeminism, 55 years of the struggle of the black women in Spain.
yeah,
So this book is on the we was in discussion inside the Pan-African movement in Spain that
yeah.
the young sister, they said that we never have history before they come to the Instagram with many followers. And we said no, we have history. We have people like
Yeah.
Marcus Garvey women,
Yes.
Silas Garvey, Aminata Umoja, Nkechi Taifa, woman who inspired me to make this book, people like, Federica Newton. And then I went to
Yes.
people in the history of Spain. I found 300 women who participate. Many of these women was like Salaria Kai, who was an
Mhm,
Afro-American woman to come to Spanish Civil War, and they was
mhm.
contribute to the fighting against fascism, or the women who participate against the Ethiopia war, and the whole the history to since today. That this book give legitimacy to the movement because the white left was support this sister with Afro and internet talking that Malcolm is bad,
Mhm,
Malcolm is violent,
mhm.
So we try to show them that before they come to the extent, it was
Yeah,
history. So Africa
yeah,
has history, and all the time here in Spain, and is the history of the African struggle in Spain through women.
Okay, so you are just very phenomenal. You are magical. You are a revolutionary's revolution. Hey, you are all that, my brother. And I can't wait till your book on Malcolm X comes out. We're celebrating the 100-year birthday anniversary of El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, also known as Malcolm X. And we've been speaking to our dear brother from who lives in Spain now, who's from Guinea, correct?
What?
Yes, you're from Guinea, correct?
Yeah, I'm born in Equatorial Guinea. Yes, Equatorial
Guinea,
Guinea is
right, now
in,
in
yeah.
Spain.
Mhm.
So again, thank you for joining us. I'm just going to let you leave with the last remark very quickly of what you want to say with respect to this centennial anniversary of the birth of Hajj Malik El Shabazz, May 19, 1925, 100 years ago. My brother, you have the last word. You leave us with some words of
Yes,
wisdom.
one of my book is the Malcolm X y la generación hip hop, Malcolm X and the generation hip hop. In this book, it was writing when it was dedicated to my son. His name is Malcolm X. It was about 20 years ago, and the book is about the influence of Malcolm X in the hip hop movement.
Okay.
All the groups that talk about Malcolm X, even Wu-Tang Clan, all the groups speak of Malcolm X and how Malcolm X inspired hip hop. You know, it was very different in the 60s. Was this the jazz and soul music that was strong by hip hop make more strong Malcolm, because John Coltrane and Wu-Tang Clan in Public Enemy, it was so different in the time, because Malcolm was a strong influence. So, and in here in Spain, I grew up in Spain, and we was on like gangs in the street. And Malcolm, when people read Malcolm, people became a revolutionary, no
Yeah.
criminal.
And then when people read your upcoming book, they're going to become a revolutionary as well. So again, thank you so very much for joining us here at WPFW Pacifica Radio for this special broadcast that we're doing on the centennial of the Malcolm X anniversary of his birth. This is Nkechi Taifa, and we've been talking with our dear brother Abuy, Dr. Nfubea, who lives in Spain right
As
now. Thank you so very much, my
Thank
brother.
you so very much. As Brother Kali Muhammad said in Million Youth Mar, go and find all the record of Sister Nkechi Taifa you can find.
All right, now. Adios, my brother. Hasta
Adiós, hasta
mañana.
luego, chao. Que vaya
Hasta
bien.
luego. I don't know the right words. Peace and blessings. So I hope you enjoyed our show today, Reflections on the 100th anniversary of the birth of Malcolm X. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that you don't have to donate to this station to keep it alive all at once. You can become our monthly sustainer. You can make WPFW your smallest bill of the month. How are you going to do that? As a sustainer, your contribution will provide a steady stream of income, and your favorite radio show, your favorite radio station, you can help keep it survives. Call and let folk know that you want to be a sustainer or you just want to donate. Again, the number to call is, we're closing out, 202-588-9739 or 1-800-222-9739. This is Nkechi Taifa. It's been my pleasure. Peace and blessing. Long live the memory of Malcolm X.